Hey, I'm Michael Forbes and I'm the Refurbishment Manager at Renewable Parts. And I've been with the business for 3 years now. The business is in its 10th year this year, celebrating its 10th year. It started out as a business repairing and supplying parts for wind turbines in Lochgilphead on the west coast, but very quickly had to move to Renfrew for logistics as the business grew, because Lochgilphead wasn't the handiest place in the world to get to. The business grew over the next few years and became a supply chain business in the UK wind industry, so importing a lot of goods from Northern Europe and selling them within the UK. Within the last few years, the business has started to export a lot more overseas and has been looking a bit at manufacture of parts within the UK. And the refurbishment centre started 3 years ago, roughly, when I joined the business, to start recirculating wind turbine components. And when the refurbishment centre was established, it was established back in Lochgilphead, which is where the business had started in the first place. So that's where I'm based, and we are almost set up like a supplier to the remainder of the business. So we take used defective goods from wind turbines and refurbish them and put them back on the shelf.
Okay, dope. And why would you say remanufacturing is important, like the focus on remanufacturing of wind turbine components?
I think it's kind of critical right now with it's a critical part of the circular economy. We're getting to a point now where it can be very difficult to get drawings or order parts, or there's long lead times or fluctuating prices. It adds a lot of uncertainty, and I think in that environment, people tend to just buy new because it's the easier thing to do. I think being able to remanufacture parts and reverse engineer, it's really important now. I think, especially with turbines coming to the end of life, and looking at what's going to happen with all that volume of components. If there is any trouble getting any materials details, drawings, anything like that, it makes it really challenging to recirculate those parts unless you can, confidently remanufacture a part. Then it can mean there's a lot of waste just on the horizon.
It's an interesting one. Is it the lifespan of a wind turbine is what, 20, 25 years or so?
Yeah, that's right.
Okay, so, and what brought Renewable Parts to the AMRL then? So
I think there'd been previous collaboration with EEE within Strathclyde University. Also, I think there may have been some discussions prior to myself starting with the business, but I know I was always quite keen to be involved with AMRL and DMEM because I'd studied DMEM myself a lifetime ago. But the AMRL's been on the radar ever since I started with the business, and we've had quite a close relationship with them. We've had projects running pretty much constantly over the last 3 years since I've joined.
Okay, and then how would you describe your experience with the AMRL? Because I know you've been involved with, there was a yaw gear project, and now there's discussion of, what is it again? The brake calipers. That's next, or starting this month.
So we've had a few. This will be the third big project we've had. The experience has been great. So the yaw gear project, for example, was one that was a collaboration between AMRL and DMEM. So it was a 1-year project with each department doing 6 months work. And that was the gearboxes that we see most often in the workshop here. We're looking at materials analysis, looking at why they fail, looking at whether they've been damaged in assembly from new, or what we can do to improve our inspection process. The thing I really liked was that when we got a few months into the project, the goalpost changed quite a bit, because the decision was made commercially within the business here to look at manufacturing this part within the UK. So although we'd set out in the first place looking at enhanced inspection of the OEM parts, halfway through the project the decision would be made that we're going to manufacture our own parts. But rather than the project just being dead in the water, it was tailored so that the project was then used for us to the data that we gathered from the project was then used for us to do our final pass off and inspection of our own UK manufactured products. So it was good that, even though the goalpost changed halfway through the project, the AMRL were able to adapt and move with us with the project, and still come up with something that was really useful to us at the end.
That's really good. And have there been any highlights of your work with the MRL or Strathclyde as a whole?
Yeah, so we've had a lot of overlap with various different departments in Strathclyde, but I think MRL is the one we've worked with the most. I think one bit that stood out for me was with the caliper project. We had a meeting with the MRL and our customer. So we had, I think, 3 representatives from the potential customer came up, and we were talking about a fairly large scale project for calipers, and we arranged a tour of the MRL and a meeting at the site with the customer. And I honestly do think that was one of the things that got the whole project over the line. I think having that level of research to back up the work we're doing added a lot of credibility to what we're doing. You know, for us dealing with much bigger businesses, where until very recently we didn't have an R&D department internally, we kind of subbed out all our R&D, and I think to have that level of support, it kind of made it clear to the customer that we're capable of doing the work they were looking for.
Okay, and then would there be any thing that would differentiate working like with the MRL to other labs you may have worked with, or have the MRL been a main collaborator with Renewable Parts?
So AMRL definitely have been the main collaborator. I think the team at the AMRL are great. You know, they've all got a lot of experience. You can tell they all know what they're talking about. They're experts in their fields. I think the other thing with the AMRL has been the fact that they are so helpful outside of, you know, specifically just doing the project work. They're helpful in the whole project from start to finish, including, you know, applying for grant funding, you know, seeing all the paperwork through start to finish. So I think that's been a big difference, you know, like that you're not left on your own to start setting the project up or anything like that. It's very much a collaboration right from the idea right through to the conclusion.
I think one thing as well with like Tiziana and Fiona at the MRL is they're genuinely passionate about what they do. I find like they really do show an interest, because I sort of came to the MRL with my master project, so that was how I started working with them, and they genuinely are really interested in what you're doing. It's not just sort of like another project for them. They really like seem to enjoy their job very much, which I feel makes such a difference.
Comes across, and I think like I say, we've had customers come for site tours and meetings there, but we've also been in ourselves with 2 or 3 people from within our own business for tours and bits and pieces, and you can tell it really comes across anytime you visit the site that they're passionate about what they do, and they know what they're talking about.